Hi guys, I'm Declan.
And I'm Itala.
And this is Ethical Fashion Today, and we're going to be talking about the second-hand fashion market, which new research is suggesting will be bigger than the luxury market by 2022.
It's no surprise that a lot of people are buying more second-hand clothes than before, so we want to look into why that's happening and what's the impact that it's going to cause, and if that's a good thing, what else can be done, and so let's get started.
So some of the reasons why that this has been suggested to be so soon is that the second-hand market generated $360 billion worldwide in 2017, and by 2022 it's expected to generate $400 billion, which is already more than the luxury fashion. But also the fact that most of the second-hand market is taking away sales from luxury fashion, because it's normally, like, when I say luxury I mean like designer, like names and brands and stuff like that. So it's like if people can get the same brand second-hand a lot cheaper, that's taking sales away from the luxury brand. So luxury brand is losing sales at the same time as the second-hand market is increasing in sales, which is why a few years ago a lot of high-end brands were trying to stop eBay from being able to allow people to sell their brands on eBay, which obviously failed. And then so now that a lot of brands are trying to figure out how they can be involved in the second-hand market directly as a way to sort of fix that solution, because it obviously is a growing market.
I wonder how they'll do that though.
Yeah, I know, like some high street shops sell like sort of repurposed branded products, you know.
Yeah, but like for luxury brands, it's kind of weird to think that they'll do such a thing, because like they were burning the leftover stock.
Yeah, I think they still do all that. Like, well, depending on obviously sustainability goals and stuff. Hopefully they won't be able to, but well, that's another thing that I think they need to. Another reason why I don't think they've found the solution yet. I think they're just looking for a solution, because they know that they're going to get wiped out if they don't.
Yeah.
Because like obviously people are catching on to, they don't want brands like burning the stock that they're not selling, and
yeah, they'll have to do something to adapt.
They're going to lose sales to the second-hand market anyway. I think some we see like a lot of brands on like these like apps like Depop and stuff selling like sample sales and stuff like that, like selling a lot of stuff to sort of like a budget version.
Yeah,
reckons that the second-hand market here, the number says they lose about 30 billion in sales from people buying second-hand. Version, it's the same thing, but obviously like second-hand version of the same thing.
Yeah, there was an article last month on CNBC, and it was saying that the second-hand apparel market was worth $24 billion in the US in 2018, last year, versus $35 billion for fast fashion. But by 2028, they are expecting the used fashion market to skyrocket to the value of $64 billion in the US, and the fast fashion only reaching $44 billion.
So that's the prediction is that that second-hand market will keep growing. Like obviously only in like 2 or 3 years it'll be a bigger market than designer brands, and in like 10 years it'll be bigger than fast fashion, which is like almost hard to imagine, but it's definitely heading that way. And one of the main reasons why they think that it's trending this way is because it's young people that are pushing this. It's older people aren't really jumping on board as fast, but like younger people definitely are. So see that 61% of Generation Z, which is like up to like age 24 roughly, like now already buy second hand. Like that's so most young people are already buying second hand clothes, and they just expect that the next generations that'll just keep growing, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's so trendy now to wear second-hand clothes. Like, people are buying vintage. They're wearing things that our grandparents used to wear before. And it's funny because we are millennials, and growing up, second-hand clothes were just like a no-no. Like, going to a charity shop, it was a bit like a just not an option. I think it was really uncool. And to say to someone, like to your friends, that you're wearing something that you bought from a charity shop, that was almost embarrassing. Whereas now it's just nice, and people are doing that and blogging about it and raving about it, and just telling everyone how much they paid for a bargain designer top that they got second hand.
Yeah, I think one of the main attractions for designer clothes, or one of their main selling points, the reason to get repeat sales, was to have a limited collection or limited time on things. But now obviously with people that doesn't really exist so much, because you can get it second hand, so or you can get it from around the world, and it's online, so it's not you have to go to a store or anything to get this particular thing anymore. And that's obviously all fairly new systems. So it's all that sort of taking place now with younger people, where they don't have to, if they missed out on collection or something, or so the vintage stuff is almost more limited edition now, because there's less of it. So it's that's where it sort of becomes that sort of luxury in a way, because it's oh, that's special.
Yeah, it's
because
unique.
You can get the design stuff anywhere now. It's available to everyone. New stuff. So if you can get something that's from an old collection or something like that.
Yeah, and I can see how that's gonna overtake fast fashion. If you think about college times, for example, people in your class they could easily be wearing the same top as you, because of course you would just be buying from the same shops. And whereas now, if you go into a school or college or university, you see students all wearing different stuff and really showcasing their own personality, and they all have a different look to each other almost. Of course, there's going to be the groups that kind of look similar to each other, but it's much easier to create your unique personality.
Yeah, there's still trends obviously, but it's almost all them styles of groups of people it used to sort of attach to that generation, but now it's you can pick which generation you want to follow, which style you want to follow from the history, our short history or whatever. In the fast fashion, sort of having so many different trends, we can be oh well, I really like that trend from that time, so and I can find them clothes from that time.
Yeah, it's really interesting, at least in England right now. You walk in the streets and you find people wearing things from the 60s, 50s, 90s. So it's just it's just a mix of eras, and it's just very exciting time to be living in the fashion world. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and another reason why this is also growing very big is obviously sustainability is a hot topic right now, and that's becoming more and more trendy, I guess, in fashion, and probably will do because it's not something that's gonna be sold so easily. It's something that gets talked about on TV and in schools and in media and everything. So and it is seen as a sustainable option to buy secondhand. It's obviously, rather than buying new products, especially compared to fast fashion, it's much more sustainable, and you can probably get a high quality product. Another reason is a lot of older products were manufactured to a higher quality anyway.
Yeah, people can see the impact of their disposable clothing habits. So you can see that the landfills are full of clothes. Most of them they take years and hundreds of years to even break down into microplastics, even, because most of the clothes nowadays used in the fast fashion industry are made of polyester. So even the fabrics that are used to create cheap clothing, they're not even natural, and they're really harmful in terms of their processes as well to be created to the people, to the environment. So people are really jumping on board of what can I do that is affordable and is going to help me contribute to a better future. So it creates that circular economy where you are buying clothes and then you're passing on so other people can enjoy it as well, and just really extending the longevity of the items.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll be interesting in the future to see what sort of sticks around from this what new clothes stick around from this generation, because I think I know like one of the big complaints from a lot of charity shops who get donations of clothes and stuff like that is that a lot of new clothing that's coming in is just not high enough quality, and they can't sell it because it's damaged and it's fallen to pieces and stuff, and it might not be very old. I suppose that's a good thing about like vintage and older clothes, is like, you know, that they've survived like that long, that they're probably of a higher quality in that sense anyway. I mean, a waste management company did a big survey to see like if people would be willing to sort of use like sort of clothes that considers like second-hand market, basically, for like clothes that have been thrown out or sent to charity shops. See who would be willing to buy that or wear that and stuff, and about 80% of people between age 16 to 21 said that they would be happy to buy second-hand. Overall, the average was like 45%, which just shows that like the older sort of people are really not as completely it is a generational thing, in that like the older generation is nowhere near or is up to speed with as younger people when it comes to buying and wearing second-hand clothes.
Yeah, and I can see that like personally as well. I am trying to buy more second-hand. Like this top was bought, well, it used to be a dress, and I bought it from a charity shop, and they cut it and made it into a top. So I am trying to I think to change my perception towards second-hand clothes. Some of the items I just really I don't see myself getting into, but you know, it is really good to see the younger generation doing it more, and I can see why they're doing it as well through the influencers point of view. Like if you see on Instagram, you follow lots of people that you love, and you kind of like want to wear what they're wearing. So if they post like on Depop, for example, this is what I got and I want to sell it, a lot of people are going to be interested and want to get it from them. So yeah, I think Depop actually created like a really good image towards second-hand clothes, so you can see the person who are wearing it before you, and if you can really relate to them, you kind of want it.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I was thinking like one of my biggest things, like, because I'm not really 100% on board with it, like because I just feel like I'm wearing like someone else's clothes and stuff like that, like it's not something that I was super comfortable with. But yeah, it does make sense more now with like social media and stuff. You do see a lot of people selling clothes like through social media or through like YouTube or any sort of social thing, and that it's like, well, you know the person, you don't know the person, but you see the person, you like the person, you like their style or whatever, you respect them to some degree, and then they're selling it, so it's like, oh well, it's kind of off them, so it's not like a stranger or someone that you don't know.
Yeah, like a few years ago, for example, if you wanted to buy second-hand clothes, you had two options, like eBay. So like, the pictures would be terrible, like they would be just bad lighting, just flat layers, and just there was no creativity. You couldn't really see what the clothing would look like on you, and it was just like a gamble. And charity shops, so like, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but in England most of them they are kind of like in bad shape, like they don't really look attractive, their clothes are really just cramped together, some of them are quite smelly, so it just doesn't feel nice, like it doesn't give you a good experience, whereas like nowadays on Depop it just looks cool.
And even like some people that we've seen in social media where they'll buy clothes second hand and then sell them on to other people second hand, like but even with that process, it's like there's gone through a middleman that you like, and they've probably washed it and stuff like that, and it's just sort of that role model-y thing. Like, I suppose when we were younger, it was more like there wasn't the sort of social media, it was just like celebrities and stuff. That's obviously always kept for the past like few decades, that's been the main influence. Which obviously is going to be new clothes, because that's where they'll get their money from, and advertising and stuff like that.
Yeah, but also growing up, I remember just swapping clothes or lending clothes to like amongst friends and family. You know, if I needed like a dress, for example, for a wedding or something or an occasion, I would ask first before buying. I think because clothes weren't as cheap, so like the value of the garments were much higher, and to buy first hand was almost like a second option. Whereas the fast fashion has grown so much and clothes are so cheap, so there was like that phase between, you know, like the value where it was so high, and then you jumped into the value so low, so I don't need to ask anymore, I can just have my own. And now people are just questioning the impacts that habit has on the planet and on people, and then going like, oh wait a minute, I have so much, like why don't I just pass it on to people and make some money on the way in the way as well, and just buy myself some stuff as well that were used before.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking. When I think about it, like I just feel like quite like, even though I'm not probably not participating as much as I would like to, it does make you feel like it's kind of like a people's movement. It's kind of like it's the people that are sort of benefiting from this. It wasn't like a new marketing strategy or something. It's kind of just something that came about. It's like, oh, we really like the idea of fast fashion, really, and that we can change our style quite often and like have access to loads of clothes, and then like automatically it's like, oh, we'll just let's use these clothes that someone else has already worn, and we can just keep circulating it much more often. So you sort of get the benefits of fast fashion without all of the obviously the negative sides of producing that much stuff so fast on a relatively smaller planet, really, compared to what the amount we produce.
Yeah, and from the consumer point of view as well, you pay a lot less.
Yeah, and you're paying a lot less
price tag.
Yeah, like especially like when it comes to like the luxury like designer brands, you're paying sometimes a lot less, and yeah, which is kind of like, that's the main problem with the sustainability of it all in the future. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because a lot of these brands are going to struggle to survive because of the new market not being so strong. So it'll be interesting to see how they do sort of incorporate the second-hand market and to still be relevant. And obviously it will have to be some sort of existence of brands, otherwise it will only be sustainable for so long before we run out of like interesting clothes to wear.
Yeah, but also there's a really good company called Recyclable Textile Management, and they said that despite the charity and non-charity thrift store activities, another 13.1 million tons of textile waste is generated yearly. So even though we're buying second-hand clothes, there's still so much being produced, and there's already so much that's already been produced that is never going to get a chance to live for longer, because the quality is so poor that it doesn't really resist many wears.
Yeah.
So like, what do we do to solve that problem? And I think that's when innovations in the textile industry, ethical brands coming together, really have a massive impact on that. So you're not just creating new stuff, but you're also recycling what's already been created to give it like another life. You are also looking into new natural fabrics. They have a low impact on the planet. They are beneficial to the people making them. So you're still providing jobs and supporting social causes, giving skills to vulnerable communities to create that product, and you're supporting a more ethical and sustainable future at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's good to. I think it's a good indicator as well to for the progressive systems. Like I think it's sort of is positive for brands to sort of see this, so that they can be like the initiatives where you can take clothes back to get repaired if they get damaged. Like so if you go back to the brand with the clothing, I know like this is probably more common in jeans, but if we can do it with like most clothing and then repair it, or another one where like you could maybe take clothing back and get a discount off some new clothing or some other, because if the brands started selling their own brand, this is what I think personally, I think it would be a good idea is if brands start selling their own brand clothing from previous, like vintage versions of their own clothing. So if they started accepting almost as a trade of like, oh, you bring in our old clothing, obviously then I think you get multiple things from that which people like. They'll be checking that it's authentic. You'll be able to go to their store to buy vintage clothing of their own. It should be cheaper than their new clothing in theory, and that keeps them included in the market. And I think that, and also should create a lot less waste, especially if they include like a repairing element to it.
Yeah, there's a few brands that offer the repair for life. Of course, it's only like really brands that offer good quality products, so they can keep up with
that's another reason, because it would give incentive to keep that quality there as well, because they'll be able to resell it again in the future. So I think there is some interesting solutions that should come out of this. Obviously, probably some that I can't even think of right now, and like until it moves further down the line, and there'll be a lot of innovation, I'm sure.
I think fashion, even though it is the second most polluting industry in the world, it does offer many opportunities to reduce waste and improve the environment at the same time. So it's really just about being creative and finding solutions instead of just going with the flow and wanting to create profits and more profits and just trying to suck in like everything that the environment has to offer. But like, it's all about like what can we offer to the environment back and to consumers.
I think that's what if I remember that's what we what we were talking about last time in the last talk was where the UN were putting in place about sustainability. I think there was a bit in there where someone was saying basically that the fashion has potential to work alongside and help a lot of other waste issues, like with plastic obviously and stuff like that, like recycling non-fashion related waste as well.
Isn't it National Geographic who are creating their own line?
Yeah, they're doing that as well. I think that's in connection with the BBC and Our Planet and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they're recycling plastics, and you can see a lot of clothes made of recycled plastic nowadays, recycled polyester.
Yes, definitely.
It is a way of using waste. Of course, it's not the perfect solution because you do have the problems of the microplastic, but there's like so many innovations to reduce the microplastics in the washing anyway, so that is definitely a way forward. There's also a project that we've been in touch with from Northumbria University. That's like a local university, and the BA fashion design students that are creating clothes made of tents that were just left like from festivals. There's so much like tents that are left after a musical festival, so they're taking all of that and creating new products from it, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
they look really cool, and so there's definitely initiatives and innovation like happening behind the scenes, and that'll probably get more mainstream. I think you're probably most likely to see it first in sports brands and stuff, especially with like recycled plastic and that, because they're probably financially winning the most at the moment, potentially. Like they've got the trend and stuff like that.
But also for like
and it's an easy way to use polyester.
It can be made waterproof, like the tents, for example, and it's very durable
and lightweight and stuff like that. So they're sort of pushing a bit faster, I think. And
I think in terms of like just like everyday wear as well, like the innovations at the moment, like with the Pinatex, like the weather made of pineapples, coconut skins, orange peels, all of that is also taking into account food waste, and bringing it forward to create like a fashion innovation. It's also really important, but then it is kind of like early-ish phases, so the cost is so high that it is going to take a while to get like mainstream and widely available for consumers. So recycling first, what like the textile that's already been created, is probably the first step.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting with these numbers to say like in like 10 years or whatever, the second-hand industry is going to be bigger than the fast fashion. I think that will sort of some of them new materials might take even longer to get to market, because of affordability and stuff like that, and just the lack of interest in new products potentially. I mean, obviously it can all change. I mean, it's only like 5 years ago, probably wouldn't have guessed that the second-hand market was going to be so successful.
Yeah, second-hand clothes are like really important right now, I think. But then I think it's also important to keep in mind that it's not the only solution. Like that we do need to keep on supporting ethical and sustainable innovations, brands that are coming about, because we do need to keep up, like the demand for new creations, for new solutions. And also there's like over 100 million people in the world that work for the fashion industry, so there's a lot of lives depending on the work. So if we can do both, support those people and support the environment at the same time, I think that's when fashion industry will win.
I think the two need to work together. Now that the second hand shouldn't really be a separate thing to the new, like the people, like the companies, the brands that are making all that new stuff should be aware and have some sort of control, or at least something in place that allows for that second-hand market, because it's obviously a great solution. So, and I think it's good, just lets people be creative and stuff like that.
Yeah, I personally like the idea of just buying less in general, just being more minimal, and just investing really on good quality pieces that I love, and I know that supporting good brands and the work of people, and not creating such a huge high impact on the planet, that as low impact as possible, and preferably they have the circular economy, so I know that I'm going to be able to pass it on to other people in the end, and as opposed to just keep on buying second-hand clothes all the time. But I know that's a really good thing for people who do like to keep their wardrobes full and wear different things all the time.
Probably a good philosophy is just say I keep my new products to a minimalist way of thinking, and then if you want to have that more creative freedom, and you're into fashion and you then that sort of second-hand market allows for all that, which I think is great.
Yeah, you can still wear nice stuff all the time, just if you're more selective, maybe.
It's definitely lots of new options.
Yeah.
That's been our rant for today. Hope you enjoy it. Be creative with some of your second-hand purchases.
Yeah, hopefully inspired you somehow or gave you some knowledge.
We look forward to seeing what happens in the next few years. Thanks for listening.
And see you tomorrow.